It's the first week in October, and I figure what better way to start my fall reading than by doing a reading vlog. I have a plethora of books that I want to read this fall. The thing is that October is such a fleeting month, so I really want to get like a lot of those spooky autumnal books read before we get into like November fall, because I feel like that's like fall winter, you know? So I really need to get through these books because fall is just so fleeting. The first book that I really, really want to read this fall is Soul Searching by Lyla Sage. It does have the Target sticker on it. I will take that off. Lyla Sage is one of my go-to authors. I absolutely loved her. I loved the Rebel Blue Ranch series, specifically Gus and Teddy's story. It was my absolute favorite. I was so sad that my time with Rebel Blue Ranch ended. There was such a found family aspect to each book, and I have just been missing that in all of the books that I have been reading recently. And so I don't know if I'm going to get that with this, but at least I get Lyla Sage's writing again, and that's all that matters. Colin Cartwright does not want to go home. Sweetwater Peak, Wyoming was supposed to be in her rearview mirror, but when she finds out a developer is trying to buy her parents' antique shop out from under them, she doesn't have a choice. At least that's what she tells her family. They need to know she's lost her job and is out of money, or that the ghosts who have always been her companions have recently gone silent. But just because she's returned home doesn't mean she has to stay with her parents or crash on her twin sister's couch. Lucky for her, the new to town upholsterer has a room for rent above his store. Unluckily, it is absolutely crawling with more ghosts who are freezing her out, and Collins hates being ignored. Brady Cooper is absolutely and totally fine. Seriously, there's no secret reason why he decided to uproot his life and suddenly move to Sweetwater Peak. He just needed a change of pace. At least that's what he's telling himself, and everyone else. When he agrees to let the elusive Collins Cartwright stay in his spare room, he doesn't force proximity. Doesn't know that she's absolutely bonkers, constantly talking to herself and having conversations with no one. But as they begin to get closer, the lines between them start to blur, leaving both of them and the ghosts who have been pushing them together, wondering whether their temporary arrangement could be something more permanent. Sounds good. Also, Sweetwater Peak is such a cute name for a little ghost town. A little town. I love a good small town, and not a good small town Christmas, which cute. Everybody loves those. But a good small town fall, that's where you'll find me. The next book is not a book that I'm prioritizing because I want to read it so badly. I'm prioritizing it because it is a book club read. I do want to read it, but it is a book club read, so my hand is kind of forced. There are two books that I want to read a little bit more than this, but I'm going to read it. It is Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I do know that it's one of his OG books, and I think it's about like a haunted town, some shit that happens in this town. When two young boys venture into the woods and only one returns alive, Mears begins to realize that something sinister has at work. In fact, his hometown is under siege from the forces of darkness. So this is like a not romantic version of this, it sounds like. But I know Hannah watches my videos, so thank you for choosing this, Hannah, because you're forcing me to read a Stephen King book, which I've really wanted to do. So I'm excited for this one. I actually am. I promise. Now, two of the books that I probably want to read about the same amount are Twilight and the Thursday Murder Club. I know they are completely different books, so this is kind of a crazy take, but honestly, the Thursday Murder Club is a series that I've had on my shelf for about a year or two at this point. I was gifted them, and I just never got around to reading them. I think it would be a good idea to start it now, just that fun murder mystery that I want this season. And then Twilight, come on. Come on. I know this is a different vibe than Thursday Murder Club, but I've been wanting to read this for a long time. I've watched the first movie forever ago. I don't know, forever ago. But I was never a Twilight girl when it really mattered. So this is my time to shine. I have been to Forks. I had not seen the movies at that point. Like I said, I saw the first one, but I didn't fully watch all of the movies before we went to Forks. As we got back, I was like, I have to watch these movies, and I love them. I don't know where Twilight's been all my life. I guess I just found it at the right time for me, but I loved the movies so much, so I do want to read the books, especially because I heard the books are way better because the movies are awful. But they're phenomenal. They're awful, but they're amazing. So, anyways, I want to read Twilight. Going back to this real quick, I do have like 2 weeks to read this. And usually I like reading them like the week before book club so that I remember everything. So I'm going to start with Soul Searching, and we're going to get into that. The dedication says, "For those who aren't sure what they're searching for, you'll know it when you find it." That is the cutest thing I've ever seen. Okay, we're one chapter in. We are in Colin's point of view. It looks like chapter 2 is in Brady's point of view, so dual POV. Collins is stuck on the side of the road because her car is not working while she's on her way home to Sweetwater Peak in Wyoming. So the scene is set very well for this gal who's on the side of her road in her 2002 Camry. We know that she has a twin sister named Clark who lives in Sweetwater Peak with her parents, and that Clark has set up for Collins to stay somewhere while she's staying in Sweetwater Peak. She can't stay with her sister, she can't stay with her parents, but Clark set her up to live with Brady, the upholsterer. Collins' parents own the antique store that I was telling you about earlier, and they think that she's coming home to help with this developer issue, but she's coming home because she doesn't really have that much money, and it sounds like she's a photographer. She hasn't had a photography gig in a while and was just kind of flying by the seat of her pants. Is that what the quote is? She was just hoping that something would stick, and it seems like nothing has, so she's kind of crawling back home. But nobody knows that except for her. She can't get anywhere in her car. She doesn't have service. There's a thunderstorm, so she decides to sleep in her car, and she's then awakened by a face outside of her window. She rolls down her window, pepper sprays the guy, and she hears her sister's voice behind him. Turns out her twin sister Clark came to save her because Clark knew that she was coming into town and that she didn't show up. So she went looking for Collins with Brady in tow. So that means that Collins pepper sprayed Brady, our male main character. And that's how we're meeting each other. So I'm excited to see where this is going to go. Okay, the Boone lore has been figured out. He is not, in fact, a young gentleman. He is in his 70s. He's 71, and he's the brother of Amos Ryder. If you have not read Rebel Blue Ranch, I highly recommend that series of books. I love them so much. It's like Done and Dusted, Lost and Lassoed, Wild and Wrangled, and Swift and Saddled. But those are some of my favorite books, and I think it's just because I love Lyla Sage's writing so much, and I think her characters are very realistic, which is what we're also seeing in this. As unique as these characters are with the upholstery and the seeing ghosts aspect of things, I think that she still writes her characters in a very realistic way. Every female character that she's written has been completely their own unique person, and all the guys too. I mean, at the end of the day, all the guys are kind of the same. Not because they're all written the same, but just because they're just guys. They're just guys, and I love some of them. Hey, I love Gus Ryder. The photography aspect of this book is really interesting. Collins was a photographer, more of a geographical photographer. It seems like she was published in a couple like geographic magazines and got awards for it, and is not doing it currently, and we don't know why. Brady knows that she was some sort of photographer because her twin sister told him. They're talking about these old photos of this abandoned church that he saw before he moved to Sweetwater Peak, and he absolutely loved these photos. And he was like, "Oh, I really wish I remember who the photographer was. Like, do you happen to know who it is?" And Collins is like, "Nope, don't know who it is. Obviously, it's her. We as the readers know that it's her. She doesn't want him to know that it's her because she is trying to stay away from that side of herself, from her photography side." Like I said, we don't know why. The reason that I think it's weird though is because he knows that she was a photographer, so I don't know why he doesn't just assume. I feel like that's the only part of the book so far that I've just been like, okay, come on, like, use your brain a little bit, Brady, come on. Anyways, back to the reading. I'm about 103 pages in, and I think I'm on chapter 10 or 11. Good morning, friends. I had some time before work this morning, so I figured that I would get a little reading time in, and I got to chapter 15, page 159. I'm really loving this book. It's the perfect fall book for me right now. It doesn't feel like your typical romance, and I think that's because nothing's really happened yet. So very slow burn, which I'm loving. We've had an almost something, but it didn't happen, and a lot of little things that might happen between them are interrupted by ghosts and or just some sort of comedic timing gone wrong. So it's really been a fun book to read. I never know what I'm gonna get. Brady does know that Collins can see ghosts. He was honestly very open and receptive to it, though he doesn't believe in ghosts. So he's more supporting her than anything. But he does not think that she's crazy anymore. He's kind of understanding her a little bit. They're opening up their friendship. We also learned what the incident was that stopped Collins. I shouldn't go like this. There was an incident, and we learned about that. The incident that stopped Collins from moving forward with her photography career. So we got a taste of that. We got some developer talk with her twin sister Clark, and they got into an argument about it. Not only is it a huge deal for this developer to come in because it's such a small town, but also because Collins and Clark can see the ghost world. And so, because of that, they see all of these people that are connected to Sweetwater Peak that other people can't see. So, for them, it's extra serious. It's not only their childhood and their parents' livelihood and the livelihood of those people that they grew up with, but it's also all of the people that are in the ghost realm that are attached to Sweetwater Peak. So there's kind of that added element that I'm really enjoying. Brady and Collins keep going to abandoned hotspots, her hideaways as she calls them. So you're really getting that small town feel with her and Brady going to the hideaways, abandoned churches, murder houses, things like that. And it's really putting me in the spirit. So I'm really loving it. Super cute. Love the slow burn. And I'm excited to see where it goes. That's all the reading that I'm getting in for now. I have to start making my way to work. It's like 8:10 in the morning. And my alarm went off a little bit early this morning. So it worked out that I got some reading in. But I'll see you when I see ya. Hello, friends. Coming to you live from my bedroom. I want to sit on my bed, but I have to get in my pajamas so I don't sit on my bed in my outside clothes. But I need to record this first before I forget because I got some things to say. I'm about like 80, I don't know, 83, 86% of the way through Soul Searching. I am on chapter 26 of 30 something chapters, and I'm really close to the end. Couple of things. One, I have been listening to it on Spotify. The narrators for Collins and Brady, amazing. I love them. For Brady, his voice is a lot deeper than like I imagine in my head, but I don't hate it. And Collins, I love the narrator. There's something about the way that she says her words. It reminds me, okay, this is going to be like crazy connection, but Tyler from season 1 of Wednesday. Okay, are we imagining that character? His name's Tyler. That's all I know. Him, season 1 Wednesday. He says his words the same way that the Collins narrator says her words. They talk identical. I digress. I've been listening to it. It's been really great. However, I fear we are losing the plot. Right now, I feel like we are going away from Collins's issue with not being able to connect to her spiritual side. Like, we haven't talked about that for a while. We also haven't really talked at all about Brady's past. We know about his past relationship, and we know that he's connected in some way to this developer. But other than that, we don't know anything about him. And we get his point of view. But he's not super, we don't get a lot of depth from him. I feel like we get a lot from Collins. We know a lot about Collins, but there's just something about Brady that's just surface level for me still. I like him as a character, but I feel like I don't know him. Their banter's cute. I think their chemistry is not all there. It is a slow burn, and I love a good slow burn. It was sitting at a 5 star. I think we're bringing it down a little bit maybe, but it's still a really great book. I'm still really enjoying it. I'm still really loving it. I still think it's a perfect fall book to read right now. I also have this like issue that arises with this whole like developer trying to come in and take away Collins and Clark's family home, and the like web that's being spun in that little storyline, not my favorite. And who knows, maybe it will come full circle at the end and everything will make sense and everything that I'm saying right now will be moot. I definitely will be finishing it tomorrow and then we will be starting our new book as well. So I just wanted to come on and say all of that stuff before I forget it while I sleep. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I just want it to be known that you will be seeing me in this spot a lot in future videos because come fall and winter, this is my spot right here. So I finished soul searching. I had to sit with it for a little bit. I had to take a walk, had to go run some errands because I really don't know how I'm feeling. Even now, I'm still a little bit confused on my feelings with the book. Lyla Sage tied up all the loose ends and was able to finish the book in a very well-rounded way. All of the questions that I had about storylines that were going on were answered. However, I feel like we could have had a longer book with more content. There was not a third act breakup in soul searching. We didn't have to worry about that. However, things with the developer, with Collins and her photography, I just feel like it all happened so quick at the end. It was like a domino effect all of a sudden. Like they have sex for the first time, and then we have a domino effect of all of the problems getting fixed, and then the story's wrapped up in a bow. I still think that we don't know enough about Brady. I still want to know more. We did have a little Rebel Blue Ranch cameo. Amos and Cam make a slight appearance at the end. Overall, I think the book started so great. I think it started so strong. I really loved the characters. And then once we actually started getting into the romance aspect of things, I think that we started to lose the other plot points of the book. I'm going to stick with a 3.75 stars on it. I thought it was a very unique book. I haven't seen a ghost story romance done before, so I really loved that aspect of it. I did love our characters as much as I could love of Brady. I really loved Collins. Like I really loved her, and I think that's what saved it for me is her and her personality and the ghost aspect of things, the small town feel. I'm not usually a one book at a time reader, and for the sake of my well-being and for the sake of getting through these books for this video, I'm going to read 2 books at a time right now. I'm going to start Thursday Murder Club. I really just want a whodunit, something very clue-like. And I also just got Salem's Lot on Libby. I know I have the physical version, but I really like reading books on my Kindle right before I go to bed. So I'm going to read Thursday Murder Club, and then my before bed book is going to be Salem's Lot, which I hope is not a bad idea because I know it is a spooky book. But maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll get me more in the fall spirit. Good morning. I figured we could talk about Thursday Murder Club while I'm driving. It's 115 chapters, girl. Why do we need a book that's 115 chapters? It's only like 330 pages, I want to say. I've really been loving the book. However, I haven't been able to connect with it a lot. And I know that there's a movie, so I decided to watch the movie up to where I am in the book. And let me say, it was a great idea because it really made me love the book that much more. I want to be in a retirement facility like this when I am older. Like that's the dream. The murder mystery aspect is fun, but honestly, I'm really just loving the character driven plot, their relationships with each other, the humor. It's a really funny book. So it's more of a cozy murder mystery read than spooky. I'm only 38 chapters in. I really thought that this was gonna be like a book vlog that had a lot of books in it, but I really underestimated what was the content of the books, really. The time that I had this week with those books. So we might have only read Soul Searching and Thursday Murder Club in this, but honestly, 2 really great books so far. Also reading Salem's Lot like consecutively, but I haven't found out a lot of information that I can give you yet for that book. We're still just kind of like laying the foundation of things. It's like midnight. I finished Salem's Lot. I did finish it yesterday. But honestly, I've just been a little bit busy, but just basically hanging with friends and having a good time, you know? So I was kind of waiting to have a moment to actually sit down and talk about this book because I did really enjoy it. I had a great time reading it, and it really got me into the Halloween spirit for sure. I feel like I look like Uncle Fester in that last clip with the way I was sitting. Big book, decent sized book. I went in between reading it physically, reading it on my Kindle, and listening to it on Spotify. And I will say, I think that I loved each form of media, each different way I was consuming it. I liked all of them. I do think my least favorite was probably reading the physical book. I loved listening to it, I loved the author, and I also really enjoyed reading it on my Kindle. And maybe that's just because I couldn't see how long it was. I did just find out that it is Stephen King's second book that he published, which I thought was super interesting. So, earliest one of his OG books. Salem's Lot is actually short for Jerusalem's Lot, which is the small township in Maine where the story takes place. When the story opens, you're following a tall man and a boy. That's their description. That's the only description that you get. And you can see that they are running from something essentially. They are keeping up with a town called Jerusalem's Lot. They're looking in newspapers and are constantly on the move, getting what seems further and further away from Maine and from the United States as a whole. So directly after those couple chapters, we go straight into what happens in Salem's Lot, Jerusalem's Lot. The chapters are very interesting in this book. First off, we don't have like traditional chapters. It's very much like this. So when looking in the when looking at the table of contents, actually I'm realizing that the table of contents only has the parts in it. So like there's parts, part 1, the Marston House, part 2, the Emperor of Ice Cream, and part 3, the Deserted Village. However, in those parts, you have like main chapters, which are like the Lot, or Ben, or Mark. So you know that those next 5 breaks in that big chapter are all going to be about that character for the most part. Whenever it's a big chapter about the Lot, it's about the town as a whole. So Salem's Lot as a whole, about everybody in the town that is not a main character, which I actually really loved the chapters about the Lot because there were so many characters in this book, but it was never confusing because we had our main characters and then the Lot was its own character. It was like the town was its own character. You got to know people within the town and they were a part of the town. They were what made Salem's Lot Salem's Lot. I hope I'm explaining this right. I'm honestly gonna say I did not know what the scary aspect was in this book, what was like haunting this town. Even like when, for some reason, when I was looking at the cover, I still like had no idea what it was about. Maybe that's just me like not reading context clues, but like I had no idea. I couldn't tell. Knowing what I know now, I do know what it's about. I do know what is plaguing this small town, and I don't want to tell you. I'm sure most people know, but I didn't know going into it, and I feel like a lot of people in my book club probably didn't know either. I enjoyed reading his writing style. However, he wrote this book in, I think, early 70s-ish, and I don't know if it was like the times or if it's him. I don't know, but I feel like there was a lot of homophobia in this book and a lot of sexism in this book, men being weird to younger women and things of that nature. And I think a lot of it had to do with like who these characters were. Like it made a lot of the characters were unlikable characters in this small conservative town. So I think that had to do with a lot of it. I feel like it was just so easy for him to write. So there were parts that were very uncomfortable to read, that I didn't like reading at all, that I wanted to skip, but I do think that it also made the unlikable characters who they were and gave more context to the story, unfortunately. I hate that it had to do that, but given that the story is about a town that is dying, and some people say that the town was dead to begin with, I think it makes a lot of sense that these people do have these mindsets and are stuck in their ways. It is a very fleshed out book with very fleshed out characters, and I appreciated that aspect of it. When Stephen King is writing the chapters about Salem's Lot itself, using Salem's Lot as its own character, he goes a lot into the atmosphere, the weather, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, like really going into all of your senses so that he can perfectly describe the place that they're in, since it is a character. And something that I loved that I felt really resonated with being in the fall season is, but when fall comes, kicking summer out on its treacherous ass as it always does one day, sometime after the midpoint of September, it stays a while like an old friend that you have missed. It settles in the way an old friend will settle into your favorite chair and take out his pipe and light it, and then fill the afternoon with stories of places he has been and things he has done since last he saw you. Crunching the leaves that have fallen in mad and variegated drifts, the wind makes you ache in some place that is deeper than your bones. It may be that it touches something old in the human soul. I just absolutely loved that imagery of fall, and I thought it was a perfect way to describe it coming in, the transition of the seasons. I feel like it either happens slowly or all at once, depending on where you live, if you get the 4 seasons. Since coming to Idaho, I feel like this has been the perfect way for it to be described, because I've never experienced a true transition into fall, and it really does feel like an old friend, because it is my favorite season, and I feel like it's so fleeting. So that was a great way for him to put it. I ended up giving Salem's Lot 4 stars. If you watched my last video, I also talked about a book called The Bog Wife that I found at a local bookstore, and that I was waiting for it on Libby, and I got it the day after. So I have been reading that a little bit. I don't think I'm gonna add it to this vlog necessarily, maybe just like read it for my own personal and then talk about it on a wrap up or something of that sort. But I'm going to read that a tiny bit, and then I'm also going to keep reading the Thursday Murder Club, because I've kind of put everything aside to read Salem's Lot because I was really getting into it.